part 2 of how to be proficient with kettlebell lifting. So part 1, we kind of focused on exercises that belong to the hip. That's what they did. So what we're going to do part 2 is we're going to go over our head. So in this series of exercises, what we're doing is we're learning how to fixate the bell. In a nutshell, this is all about locking out. How do you lock out the bell? That is the most important thing that you can do when you're over your head. So I'm going to kind of bring 2 exercises into one. The exercise is called the push press. And I know you guys all know what push press is. But a push press with a kettlebell needs to be done to a lockout. Okay? And so you need to practice what a lockout is. So I'm going to show you exercises to help you with the lockout, exercises to support your lockout, and then exercises to build a range of mobility so you can do the lockout really, really well. Okay, so we're going to go back to insert from the rack. You guys remember that position? That was your rack position. Your insert needs to be perfect right now. You got to keep working on this. It's got to be perfect. Okay, so step 1 is to get the bell over your head in the lockout position. So you're going to use your hips and you're going to push and lock it out, okay? So once you're up here, use a mirror, use something to make sure that you are locked out. That is not a lockout. Lockout is a lockout. It means you're going to lock your joints, okay? Wrist, elbow, shoulders, everything in a line, and you literally want to see if you can find it back on that shelf. So you see, put it back on my hip, okay? So here I am opened up, okay? It's not a bad position, be comfortable here. That's the weight on my hip, okay? One of these has to work here. You really want to find your lats right here. Your lats needs to be tight and locked in. It needs to be secure. It's what's securing the weight down. One of the ways you can find that is you take your thumb, my thumb, and I put my thumb in the sagittal plane. So I'm going to kind of turn it behind me. And that helps me get like this internal rotation with my arm, and then that's your lockout position. Okay, so you can practice your lockout position just by holding it this way. Sometimes I make people walk. They walk forward, they walk backwards. The exercise, I think, is the most efficient way of getting your lockout open is an overhead lunge. Okay, so you can go forward or backwards. So when I step forward, I'm going to drop into a lunge. I'm going to hold my lockout, and it's going to open up this whole side of my body. So if I was to step like this, okay, I've got this side of my body closed. This hip flexor is closed. This is still working the lockout, but it's really going to work it from, let's say, the torso up. Okay? What I want you to really try to do is work from the hip flexor up. So step with the opposite leg, which is going to force that hip flexor to open up. What will happen with some people, as they step forward, their arm's going to bend. Okay? And that's their flexibility talking to them. And so you got to push and fight for your lockout. Okay? It's just that simple. You can, I want you to follow your 100 test rule, so I still want you to do the sets of 100. And what that could mean is 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, all the way up, 25, 25, 25. I mean, you guys can do the math, okay? You understand what I'm saying? So what you're working on by working to the sets of 100 is you're building a nervous system efficiency where being under the weight is easier. You are literally trying to change your nervous system, change your body so that it understands the weight differently. That's literally what you're trying to do. I don't want to, I mean, I could go into that a little bit longer, but you are going to the cellular level and you're trying to change the way your body understands the weight, okay? Change the construction of your body from the inside out, okay? Lockout, okay? Find your lockout. Thumb to the sagittal plane, straight line, find the shelf, okay? And then you just do overhead lunge. So you can overhead lunge 1, pull it back to the shelf, hips up. Overhead lunge 2, pull it back to the shelf, hips up. Overhead lunge 3, okay? And you're going to work that to your set of 100. It's just that simple, okay? You can work overhead lunges or you can work just a push press. Now, when you're working the push press alone, make sure you fixate and hold that for 1.5 seconds so that you can work on your lockout. Because remember, the reason we're doing this is to work on the lockout. We're not working on reps. I care how many you do only because I want you to hold this as long as you can. Does that make sense? You got to really understand why you're doing this exercise. You're doing it to work on your lockout. Nothing else. Got it? Good. Do it. I'm watching. Okay, so pressing. So we talked about the lockout and the importance of lockout. Do you remember the importance of the lockout? Because it's really important. You gotta get good at lockout. Good. So there are other exercises in the pressing series that will help you get good at lockout. I call this pressing angles. So different variations of the press. I have many. I'm gonna give you guys 2 good ones because this video is long enough already. Number 1 is an exercise you guys know, and there's many great demos of it. I'm going to show you, but I'm not going to teach the exercise per se, as much as I want you guys to understand how to use it to help your press get better. Okay, in your pressing, the most important muscle is your lats. Okay, once you lock out, your lats hold you in. It's just that simple. You lock out, you stack your bones, and then you just crank your lats so it holds you in. And if you can get comfortable in that position, you can hold the weight for a long time without much work because it's just sitting on top of your skeleton. So that's what you're trying to teach your body how to do. So to get really efficient and good at pressing, you've got to get efficient at using your lats from different angles. So I'm going to show you guys a couple exercises that will help you get good at using your lats from different angles. Exercise number 1 is one you know. Okay, it's called the windmill, kettlebell windmill. And people talk about it as a core exercise, oblique exercise, hip exercise, and it is that. It does have that to it. However, one of its biggest uses is to help you understand how to use your lats to hold your lockout in place. So here I am going to set up for the windmill. I go into the overhead lockout, okay? I turn both my feet to the side, and then I find this muscle, and I pull it towards my hip. I literally crank it towards my hip. I'm going to ground that back leg in. Everything's nice and tight. Okay, and so as I work my windmill, I'm tight all the way through, tight all the way to, tight all the way through. And that's a different angle on the lockout. Okay? That's what I want you guys to see. When you're practicing this, I'm going to talk about reps later. Okay, you're going to go heavier with less reps. Okay? Work this one as a skill. The idea is to be able to manage a lot of weight, locked out, tight in the lats, because you're trying to teach your lats how to be tight. So that's what I mean when I say pressing angles. Different angles on the press. How to make your lats more tight and more efficient so that your pressing is easier. That's literally what we're doing on that one. I don't know what else to say on that one. Okay, I'm not going to go too much into the program design on this one. I like, with beginners, to do it in sets of 5, 8 max. If you can do more than 8, it's time to go up to another weight. Let me leave it at that. Get your lockout, get your technique, focus on firing the lats to the hip, and rock it. Just do it. I'm watching.
Let's go.
All right, so the other exercise in pressing angles is called a side press. Okay, and so this one is kind of interesting because it's a press, not a push press. In other words, it's more of a military press. Okay, so the way it works is you're going to take your legs like windmill stance. Okay, and I'm going to take my arm out. So now my body is aligned in the frontal plane, everything nice and tight. Kettlebell's not on my shoulder. Okay, step 1 here is to find your lat. I don't know, can you see if I'm see the weight bouncing? That's me using my lat muscle to do that. Like I'm squeezing my lats, okay? So you want to cramp your lats in nice and tight. So you cramp them in tight, body goes tight, and then you press off your lat, okay? You're going to find that lat muscle again, and you're going to pull. Okay, so you're trying to learn how to squeeze the weight, move the weight to the lockout using the lat muscle. You're trying to take your shoulder out of it as much as possible. Yeah, I know your shoulder has to do the moving, But if you can find your lat, learn how to find your lat, and stuff like that helps you build into the solid windmill. Okay? So those are the two exercises that will really help your lockout and your lat and your shoulder girdle range of motion. Those are just really, really important movements to help you get that really, really solid. Got it? Do it. All right. Last part of part 2, flexibility and range of motion. So, you know, when you're getting into kettlebell lifting, you're working a lot of different things that you haven't worked before, and so you gotta learn how to recover, and you gotta learn how to create range of motion in the right places. Okay, so easy stuff you wanna learn early is how to, like, you know, get the forearms to feel better. Like when you go around the body, around the head, that stuff for a long time, you get like steel forearms. They just start to hurt because you've been spending so much time like this. So it's really important for you to learn simple stretch, okay? Lock out the hands and pull the wrist back. Okay, and then I always add like a little rotation to it. I just find that helps you get a little bit deeper into the stretch. I'll literally pull the fingers back one by one. I'm going fast, okay? But that's how you want to do it. And then the same thing, go the other direction. Lock out and rotate. Okay, doing that with both your hands. That is just really important for you to be able to like maintain good range of motion and flexibility in your forearms. Okay, that's an easy one. You can do that one on a wall, like this. Okay, on a wall like this, and then look, I'm gonna like roll right into it. So I'm locking on, I'm rolling, because you want to stretch the full chain. So right into the chest, everything. Okay, that one will feel good. And then always reverse it, do the same thing. Don't forget to do the reverse. The reverse one is the hard one to remember. Okay, there's that. You can do it on the floor like this. Okay, putting all the weight into my hands, into my wrists. Okay, I think you guys got it. Okay, so making sure you learn how to work your wrists and your forearms open. Okay, so that's a big part. I'm going to work my way down the chain. So I'm going to go to my elbow next. Can I say this? The lockout is hard to achieve because many of us are very bicep dominant. That this muscle is locked in like this. When you see the, you know, this diesel pose right here, and they lock out. I'm locked out. Oh yeah, you're locked out there, buddy. Okay, so like learning how to lock out, learning how to open it up and keep the muscle tight. So here's how you can do that. So this is a lockout drill. This is an 8. This is a Swiss ball. Okay, so I'm going to start with my insert, really deep insert. I'm going to put my elbow on the ball. Okay, and with my elbow on the ball, I'm going to use my bicep, I'm going to control it down, right? And so you may get, let's say you get to right there, and that feels like it for you, okay? What you do when you're there is you let it sit, and you let the weight pull you open. Now I'm resisting, I'm not letting it go limp, I'm using my bicep, like, so it's flexed, it's on, but there's a weight on the end of that lever, and it's pulling it open, okay? And you literally just sit here for 45 seconds to a minute, okay? There's my lockout grip, right? I can do different things. But you want the arm to learn. I'm using my tricep too. I'm using everything. So I'm not just limp here. I'm firing into my lockout. And as I fire into my lockout, the weight is going to leverage and hold it open. And you want that to feel comfortable. That should be easy. Okay, so that's an 8. You don't need to go much higher than an 8 to do this, but you do need to practice this in sets of 45 seconds to a minute, literally 3 sets an arm. You might benefit by doing this before you do your lockout drills. You at least can do it after you do your lockout drills because it's a continuous process. You're getting good with the lockout, but this is a really, really important one for you to help get that lockout well. And the lockout is one of the most important things you can do. You can come back like that. Okay? That's it. Do that on both sides. Okay? It will feel crazy the first time you do it. It'll feel like your bicep is like, the fibers like popping. Yeah, it'll make that sound. Okay? So, but just trust your arm. Use your flex and pull it open, and just trust. It'll be there. Just hold it nice and tight. Okay? That's honestly one of the best lockout drills that I've ever been shown before. I didn't make that one up. I learned that one at IKSFA when I did their level 2 cert. So thank you, Sergey, for that one. It's Awesome drill. Last lockout drill I'm going to show you. It's to open up the thoracic cavity, right? So when you see somebody locking out and we're up here and you see somebody they're really comfortable up here, like it's locked out, everything's locked out and they're sitting in the shoulder girdle well, it's because we have a good range in both directions in the chest cavity, okay? And so pullovers is a really important exercise for us. Back bends, a lot of different things we do. But here's a really handy exercise for helping you to open up the cavity, the chest cavity. Okay, so you want a weight that's heavy. That's probably a little bit light, but you're not picking it up. Okay, you're going to take a Swiss ball and you're going to position yourself so that your upper back is on the ball, your head is on the ball, and you're going to reach back and you're going to find your belt and you're going to grab the horns with your thumbs down and you're going to hold on tight. And then you're going to push yourself to your lockout. Okay, there's your lockout. And now you're going to close your ribs and drop your hips to the floor. And you're going to use the same technique you did when you were doing the lockout drill. In other words, you're going to sit here for like a minute. Until it feels nice. One day it'll feel nice. If it's your first time, it won't feel nice. Right about now, it should feel nice. But that's just it. You're going to pull, pull, pull. You're dropping your hips, closing your rib cage, and you're literally trying to pull yourself open. Okay? Do all three of those mobility exercises before, after. Before works well, but you got to get yourself warm. I would do round the body before I did those. After works well too, because remember, you're not going to get good in one day. You're going to get good over time anyway. So after is just as good. Collectively, these part 1, part 2 exercises, hands, backswing, pressing drills. I think if you were to do them 2 to 3 times a week for 6-8 weeks or so, you should find yourself getting really good, really comfortable with it. You can fit this into your training different ways. I would do your kettlebell skills early in your training day, as in before you did your workout per se. And I think that would be the best way to develop the skill. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, there's lots of space at the bottom. You can put your comments on there. I look forward to seeing you guys around. Shout out to TRX Master Trainer team. Thank you guys for the inspiration to do this. Shout out to TA for asking me that awesome question, bro. 100 test. I'm looking forward to seeing your videos of all this good stuff. This is me, Ajamu Bernard, in the place to be. Holla, do it, I'm watching.